All right, we're going to move to 6B, the presentation of the illegal immigration enforcement update. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just by way of introduction, another action that the board took when it adopted the budget was to adopt a changed resolution with respect to the county's illegal immigration program. We have had a few weeks to digest that and translate that into the actions that it provides for the police department, and Chief Deane is here to take you through, I think, a very brief presentation that will outline our steps up to this point and our next steps to date. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the presentation today will talk about the background of how we got to where we are today, the new directive from the board that was passed on April of this year, April 29th, how we're going to implement this, a new policy, and some comments about conclusion. As you will recall, in December of 06, the police department was asked by the board to comment regarding whether we should acquire federal authority for our officers for the enforcement of immigration law. We also, and I came back to you in December of 06 and recommended that that authority be placed in the jail, that our correctional officers do that kind of screening, and that they acquire that authority. That in addition to that, that we should continue to evaluate whether select police officers should, or detectives should, acquire federal authority to do immigration enforcement. The board passed that on to the jail board and passed support of putting that authority in the jail, and that in fact has that training's been done, authority's been obtained, and that is an ongoing program in our jail today. That is, individuals who are arrested that wind up in jail are screened for their immigration status, and the immigration authorities are informed, or detention is placed on those individuals following the disposition of their state and local charge. With that mandate to the police department, I had 60 days to come back to you. As effective in July, the board mandated that the police department take action to establish a resolution that would require officers to inquire about the immigration status of anyone who's detained where there's also probable cause to believe that they are in the country illegally. That's anyone detained on state or local violation of law, where there was reason to believe the individual was here illegally. We developed a policy on that. We also were mandated to acquire federal authority for some of our staff. I recommended we do that in the form of a criminal alien unit. That has taken place. We now have 6 of our detectives that are trained and cross-designated as federal agents for the purposes of immigration enforcement, and they are focused on serious criminal activity that involves illegal aliens. I briefed you in February about the progress that we were in the process of training. Then in March, we implemented this new policy. So for the month of March, during that time, around that time, I've forgotten actually when it was, I recommended that after evaluating all that we were looking at, we probably needed to put cameras in cars, police cars, to deal with the issue of protecting us, the county and our police officers, from potential liability or claims of racial profiling, etc. Then in April, I provided you an update of where we were based on the numbers that we released that we had determined that had been screened into the process, and kind of how that broke out in the first month of operation under that new policy. Then on April 29th, the board passed a resolution anticipating that as a way of reducing the potential liability and reducing the need for the camera, the board passed a directive that would modify the police department policy. And today I'm here to talk about that particular policy and the modification, how that rolls out for police. Under the new policy, police officers will be required, mandated, to make immigration status inquiries subsequent to physical custodial arrest. That is, in all cases where we take someone into physical custody, the officer's routine would be to take that individual to the magistrate and then the magistrate makes a decision as to whether the person is incarcerated or not. During that phase, officers will be required to make an immigration status check of all individuals who are arrested.
Chief, I just want to highlight this. This is every single person who is arrested for any crime whatsoever, no matter how minor, they will be checked for immigration.
Everyone that, yes, sir. Everyone who's taken into physical custody. Police officers also will retain their discretion regarding inquiries prior to arrest in cases that are consistent with law and sound policing practices. As far as the implementation of the new policy, we will be doing training that will start immediately in the new policy. That training will be much shorter, and it will take the form of probably an hour or two of roll call training, but it'll take us a few weeks to complete that training. We anticipate the new policy going into effect as soon as that training is complete. I anticipate that to be by the end of June. As you've heard before, I think we should approach this like we did the first policy, the new policy. Continue to implement it in a three-phased approach. There's a need for us to revise the policy, which we've done, and I'm reporting to you today, to train our officers, and then to put it into effect. We need to continue our public education initiative. That is, all elements of the community need to understand what we're doing, what we aren't doing, so that it's clear that we are consistent, transparent in what we do. This policy will be released to the media today, and this policy will be put on their website, and it actually, of course, won't go into effect until we complete the training, but at the end of the month.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Brinsby?
A question regarding the public education campaign. Can you share with us your current thinking with regard to how you're going to approach the education campaign on the changes that have been made April 29th?
Well, today, excuse me.
There were more than 50 different organizations that you personally went to communicate what the initial order was. Will you be going back to all 50? Or?
It feels like I went to 50, Mr. Brinsby, but I didn't go to all of those myself, but the police department touched a lot of organizations, and I went to many of them. We will be available for making presentations or talking to any of those entities that we've already been to, or like today is a good opportunity for us to be communicating with the community. Following this presentation here, I will be making some comments to the media, basically just talking about the same issues, trying to explain it further. I haven't thought a lot about the specifics of the public education, except to say that we are available and we'll go anywhere where there's an interest.
Thank you.
And we do think it's an important thing to do.